Welcome back to another episode of the Less is More Sports Podcast. Matt needed a break from me, so for the next 40 minutes, I'm going to interrogate our baseball analyst DJ Miller. So I hope you all enjoy this episode as much as I do. So without further ado, let's get into it. As you all know, that the Houston Astros defeated the Philadelphia Phillies for their second World Series title in franchise history. So DJ, you are the baseball expert here. What did the Astros do really well this postseason?
Well, the thing that they did really well that I actually give them a lot of credit for is executing in the big moments. They executed. The pitchers came in, and a lot of their starters had many horrible just starts to games, and it never deterred the bullpen. It never deterred the lineup. They always found a way to get the right hit at the right time. There were plenty of times that mistakes were made in fielding, plenty of times mistakes were made up at the plate, even just leaving balls hanging. And they were still, at the end of the day, able to execute. And you could see that was a veteran team that just was not going to be deterred just because of one hit, one big moment by another team. They didn't lose a game until the World Series, and they just carried on, kept going, and you could tell that they were focused and dialed in every pitch, and that was probably their biggest reason they won. Because there was a lot of reasons that they should have at least had a ton of competition, and they just didn't get faced with everybody. They punched everyone else in the mouth. Everybody just kind of fell after that.
So, I mean, you touched on the big things that I noticed as well. So that tells me that I wasn't far off because you are a much better baseball mind than I am. Their .83 ERA from the bullpen is the lowest ever in postseason history. So definitely shout out to them. And clutch hitting was the other thing that I really stood out to me. Jordan Alvarez in particular seemed to come up with like hit after hit after hit in clutch moments. And of course, Alex Bregman is Alex Bregman. We know what to expect from him. So you had a hot take that I wanted to talk about before we get into the main topic of this show. So you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
So I think this was the easiest World Series win since they cheated. And before then, I got to go back a long time since, then when I'd say the easiest one since before then was even like maybe the Red Sox when they won. It just seemed so easy for them, because this one, we wouldn't go into the numbers of it. The other team never hit until they got to the World Series. And even then, they didn't even hit that particularly well. Like, for looking at stats, everybody hit worse, and the bullpen did pitch great, but they hit the starters, and then people just didn't hit anyone else after that. Looking at it, Schwarber and Alec were the only ones with more than 4 hits. Everyone else just 4, maybe 3, like a couple guys with 4 hits, a couple guys with 3 hits, and that was it. Nobody hit. And that was a huge difference maker, because you play 6 games and you walk away with 3 hits, you did not help. You didn't help. You hurt your team. And they still played good defense. They still, the Phillies did everything else that they needed to do. They pitched, I would say, what was it, game 2, where the Astros put it on. Yeah, game 2. And game 2 was probably the only time where they didn't really pitch particularly well. And of course game 4, it didn't matter how well they pitched at all anyway, because they didn't hit. And then you look at what the Yankees did, stunk the bed, struck out. I blocked that out already, but the Yankees struck out historically. And then the Astros didn't hit either. And that's just, and it wasn't that they didn't hit. It's not that they weren't the Astros were pitching that well, it was that nobody put the ball in play effectively. It was hard ground ball, hard ground ball, hard ground ball, pop up to the center fielder. And even there were some even deep fly balls that a lot of people hit. But with scouting reports now, deep fly balls mean nothing. And so, I mean, I'm not sure if you can call that game plan scouting report or just teams not executing. I would call that not executing, as they're pros. You understand your weaknesses. You understand how people are going to attack you. You've batted as a team. I think the Phillies batted as a team roughly around like 260, and then you come into the World Series and you bat just at 200 or just a little bit under 200. You didn't execute. That's on you. You could say the other team pitched particularly well. They did have the one no-hitter game. But other than that game, there was – and even that game, there were chances. They had chances to put the ball in gaps, like let the ball travel, hit them hard, and they just never did. They never hit the ball hard for real. Schwarber did. And that was probably the only guy that was really hitting the Astros also Rodriguez. Rodriguez probably played the best against the Astros. It just hit particularly well. They had to dance around him every single time he came up to the plate. But as you know, it's really hard for one guy coming up to the plate 4 times in one game to really be effective, especially when he gets walked once or twice a game, and then everything he gets is just breaking balls in the dirt and fastballs on the corner. It's just hard to hit. And yeah, they did execute a great game plan, the Astros, but teams just did not execute against them.
You're more than welcome to disagree, and I absolutely respect what you're saying. My thing is, what I've always been wanting to say is I can't fault a team for their opponents not showing up, because they took care of business. They did what they had to do, and that's what they had. That's really all that should matter. Right. So that's just where I stand on it. But I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Other teams did not execute. I think there were plenty of times where Astros gave hitters hittable balls and they just didn't hit, because in a lot of ways during a championship run, it's a lot of what you do to execute, but there's a lot of luck involved. A lot of, the ball's got to bounce the right way too. So I mean, there's so many other factors than just taking the floor, the diamond, or the field and executing. But for time constraints, I think we got to move on to the most important topic of the day, which, as our listeners know, a lot of what we do here at Less is More Sports is we talk about the social media presence in sports. And I think it's safe to say that the Astros weren't the most popular World Series champion in recent years. So, DJ, let's shed light on this. Why do we hate the Astros?
Well, of course, anytime anyone gets caught cheating, I mean, I'm for football a Patriots fan. I understand the backlash the Patriots got for years about their scandals. And the big difference between what the Astros did and other scandals, like even PEDs, and why it's such a huge difference is when you take PEDs, you are just enhancing your performance. You are letting yourself be a better version of yourself. And when you see people like there have been scandals about people corking bats and everything like that, there's still some element of fairness in the game, and the fact that I still have to put the bat on the ball, I still have to perform. But if you're going to tell me I know every single pitch that's coming, I may not know the pitch location, but who I could barely play pro ball, like at a very low level, and I could play probably D1 baseball still. If you told me I knew when every fastball was coming, unless they're throwing anything over 100, I can hit it. I mean, I know when breaking balls are coming, I just got to sit there and wait for the fastball. And you take it back to they literally won off of they got to the World Series that year off of a walk-off home run off of a fastball down the middle of the plate when it was a breaking ball count. So, you look at stuff like that, and then the way that they hit Yu Darvish in the World Series, it was it was horrible. Yu Darvish is a fantastic pitcher, and at that point, he had been the best pitcher in the postseason, looking like he was going to be the World Series MVP. And then he can't even get to the second inning against the Astros because every time he throws a fastball, they hit. I think it was 87% of his fastballs thrown got hit. That's just wrong. It's just wrong. Like, you're using a camera, cheating, and it's a completely unfair advantage that, it takes even the element of, oh, well, you still got to play. It's hard to play when everything I'm going to do, even when you're stealing signs. That's a part of the game and the game itself, and the fact that I'm just trying to get a little insight of what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, you still don't have to do those signs, but the pitcher-catcher connection has to be, they have to know what you're throwing. And that's why we now have, because of their cheating, we now have electrical signs giving to pitchers. That was what they caused. And I think it is better for the game in a way. But at the same time, them taking advantage of that kind of scandal gave them a World Series. And then it was their unapologetic about how they won the World Series. They're like, well, we won, so it was kind of worth it. You didn't take away the banner, so it was worth it. That's the way that they looked at it. And then when they were on the next year, when people were, wanting to hit their batters, Altuve, Correa, those guys, like all those guys, and they didn't want to take their lumps. They didn't want to take the backlash that came with it. And they were like, hey man, this isn't right. And it seemed like they just didn't have the mind to understand that you took away other people's opportunity. The Yankees, the Dodgers, they're not going to like you. Other teams that saw what you did, they're just not going to like you. It's not something they're just going to like about it. And then now you come and you have, brand new team, not brand new team, but like they have a lot of new pieces, new coach, and they're trying to get a new philosophy going, backing off of more on a pitching standpoint rather than being hitters. They got a lot of more pitchers now, and they got a really good bullpen, and they're winning differently. People still see that as fresh, though. The Astros are still fresh. That's still a fresh wound, and they're a good team still. They still have good players, and that's just it. That's just what it is. You had great players who cheated as a group, and then they won the World Series. They were unapologetic about it, and then now it just feels cheap. That felt cheap, and then now they're still good. Nothing is worse than when someone gets one over on you, and then they're still good afterwards. Then it's a better sense to talk about like that.
Right. So I absolutely love your angle at it, because I think it was very good insight to actually explain to our viewers how their cheating actually, the advantages that their cheating actually gave them. So I think it was really good insight on that. So, but I need you to bear with me for a second, because I'm going to go on a rant, and you are more than welcome to rebuttal this after my rant, but you just got to give me a couple minutes. I got you, my man.
All right.
So I absolutely hate that I'm going to have to quote this guy, because his TCU Horned Frogs beat my Longhorns last night. But I'm going to quote an old quote by football coach Sonny Dykes. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. The unfortunate reality is that they all do it. You talked about Spygate, and yes, the Patriots did get their backlash for it, but eventually we forgave the Patriots. At some point, we're going to have to forgive the Astros. And, I'm going to be fair. I'm a St. Louis Cardinal fan. Do you remember what we did a few years back? We had a rogue employee hack into the Astros database to steal information, whether it was scouting reports, injury reports, information that we weren't supposed to have. That's not any better. I mean, that's just as bad, if not worse. And it doesn't just happen at the professional level. I mean, you and I are both Louisville natives. We don't need to go into detail what's been looming around Louisville's men's basketball program. Thankfully, there's a conclusion on that, and the NCAA can finally leave Louisville alone, because I'm no Louisville fan by any stretch of the imagination, but come on, man, this is getting ridiculous. They've been punished enough. Leave them alone. And to top it off, it happens at the high school level as well, too. My alma mater, St. X, as you all see, the cup that I drink out of, my alma mater every show, they're under investigation right now for illegally recruiting Du Bois Academy football players. We don't know to the extent of what happened, but the private schools here in Kentucky, they get a lot of backlash for recruiting, but I'm going to pull up a tweet from freelance sports writer Nate Bryan, who covers a lot of high school sports here in Kentucky. And the tweet goes as followed. Food for thought. There is a large public school east of I-65 that is known for producing Division I recruits. This will be their 6th varsity season. Every starting quarterback has been a transfer. They have yet to have one that came from middle school, the freshman or JV teams. It ain't only the private schools, folks. So I guess my point by saying this is I've been around sports my entire life, whether that is as a player, as a reporter, and now as a podcast host. And one thing I've always come to know is that they all do it. So for me, it's unfair to criticize one team that gets caught cheating when there's a million other teams out there that are cheating. So one thing I hate, and I'm not talking about you specifically, but when it comes to fans, I don't live in this fairy tale namby-pamby world that people believe that every team wins the right way. Every team is trying to bend the rules as much as they can to get the advantage over their opponent. Some just get caught and some don't. And, I love the sport of baseball. I love, Albert Pujols is my favorite player of all time. I love even going to your games. I love the sport itself, but I absolutely hate the aura and the atmosphere that baseball fans have. Because if we want to really get down to it, baseball was saved by what most people consider cheating. So that's all I got to say. It's unfair for me to criticize the Astros when millions of other teams are doing it too. They're just not getting caught. So eventually we're going to have to forgive the Astros and realize that they are just a damn good baseball team. Cheating or not, you don't win 2 World Series in a 5-year span. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. And, to caveat what you're saying, I definitely agree. My dad said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying hard enough my whole life growing up. And that's how I was taught to play the game. And it wasn't so much as, it wasn't, it's not like I had a camera out in the outfield trying to give signs back to the guys. But what we did do is, you get on second base. If you can see what the catcher's, the signs he's given for outside, inside, give your guy, put your hands in a specific way, let people know that what's coming. Mm-hmm. And bother the pitcher in a way, bother the first baseman. If you're sliding into third base and you're out, fight tooth and nail saying that you were safe until the umpire calls you out, and like, what I mean? Even if and I was a catcher, if I know the guy didn't go on a swing like he held back his swing, still gonna ask the first base umpire, because maybe he didn't see it right. Just maybe he didn't. Maybe he'll make a bad call, and that's just what baseball is. Baseball is almost like bringing a game of chess into the forefront. And in chess, it's definitely harder to cheat in chess, but if you can misdirect somebody into thinking that this is going on when really this is, that's how it goes. And it's an unfair thing to do. It's unfair, but if we wanted to live in a world where there was no cheating, you just throw a fastball down the middle, best man wins. I either throw it harder than you can't hit it, or you can hit it. That's how the game would be. It would be the way Jack Lynn pitches, the White Sox pitcher, just throwing fastballs by everybody. That's how he goes through about his day, and that's nothing wrong with that.
Or like Joel Zumaya back in the day.
Yeah, yeah. That's just how it is. But you can't just go in and try to outpunch everybody. That's not how. Only the hardest thrower is going to win, or the guy who can put the bat on the ball is best going to win. That's not what baseball is. It's about a team collective effort. That's why it's the most team game you can have, besides like soccer. And even soccer, someone one person can still really dominate. Baseball, it's really hard to have one guy dominate a game, because even if you have a fantastic pitcher,
it's impossible, really.
Yeah, you still can't win with 0 runs.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, you can't pitch. It's not like you could throw 12 innings in an overtime game, pitching or getting extra innings, and you think that, my team will eventually score a run. It can't just be you.
There's a reason that the best player in baseball for the past decade has been to the playoffs twice.
Oh, well, actually, no. Aaron Judge has been in the playoffs.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Stop it.
Just say, hey, I'm just saying Aaron Judge has been in the playoffs. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm glad you're bringing up Aaron Judge because later on in the show, I am going to bring up Aaron Judge. But anyways, no, I'm actually, to touch on what you said, I'm actually really glad that you talked about PEDs and corking bats and how you mentioned how even though it is people consider it cheating, it is a way of getting the best version of yourself. There is a level of fairness to it because one of the hotter takes that I have in sports is that I don't think players should be demonized for using PEDs at all. Obviously, that is a much bigger topic that we can get into on another show. We have way too much to talk about in the remainder of this show to get into it, but that's one of the hotter takes that I have that a lot of people call me delusional over, but you know what? That comes with the territory of being a podcast host. I can live with that. I can take criticism. Hell, I'm a Duke fan living in Kentucky. I got my first death threat at 13. I'm good. I got very thick skin. But anyways, I think we touched on the biggest part of the show, and I think that's going to be the part that people really tune into. So the next segment of the show, we're going to talk about what is next for the Philadelphia Phillies.
What's next for a team like the Phillies? Honestly, I feel like they figured out their hitting lineup. Now it's about getting, I would say, a legitimate ace.
Mm-hmm.
A legitimate 16-plus win guy, sub 2.5 ERA, over 160 strikeout guy. That should be their main focus this postseason because I think Justin Verlander's available. Kershaw's available as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kershaw still definitely got a good year.
I don't think he's leaving the Dodgers, but he is available technically. Yeah.
There are people available this year.
So before you continue, I do have a question though. Do you not think Noah Syndergaard is that guy?
I don't think he's number one. It looked like he would be, but I know he had some injuries to deal with, and that stunted his growth. I can't remember exactly what injury he had, but it definitely stunted his growth. And, without that big commanding fastball that he used to have, he will always have to carry around that he was the guy behind Jacob deGrom, then got hurt, and then couldn't do it by himself. Mm-hmm. And as sad as that is, and he would be a great number two. He will be just like the Yankees have Luis Severino and Nestor Cortez to be the number two behind Garrett Cole. He's perfect for that role. Perfect pitcher for that role. There's no shame in being the number two guy because of course you gotta have four guys in the rotation. He's a solid guy that they can definitely have going through him and hopefully Zach Wheeler actually pans out a little bit better and actually he pitched great in the what was it, divisional series. He had a good game in the divisional series. He's just gotta perform consistently through the playoffs. He's another great guy to have, just one more just solid guy, the one that's gonna shut it down. That's what they need, and then that's really the last jump, and then just staying healthy. Just for any team,
yeah, right. That's a big thing anywhere.
Yeah, it's a big thing for regardless of who you are, and that they're a team as long as they stay healthy. Because I know a lot of the season they were an unhealthy team. A lot of guys spent hurt, spent a good month or two hurt, and that really affects your play. But they really figured it out in September, and that really carried over in October. They did a fantastic job. I think out of everybody who played in the postseason, they should, even though they did not win a World Series, they should be the most happy with how the season began to how it ended. They should be the most happy. They have a fantastic hitting lineup, and it really came together at the end of the season. Their pitchers really performed well up into the World Series, and it's a team that nobody expected to be there, and they got there. And I really hope they enjoyed the basking in the light. Now they're going to have a spotlight on them for the NL this year. And they're going to have a big target on their back. Them and the Dodgers, as always, are going to be the two teams where everyone's looking at. And the Mets. I would say the Mets, too. The Mets just really – and I would say the Mets probably perform the worst in the postseason out of any team. But that's another topic.
Say, I mean, I'm glad you talked about the pitching because I was reading a bunch of Phillies beat writers and one of the trying to find notes to figure out what is next for the Mets to kind of develop my own opinion. Obviously, one of the big conversations going on is what are they going to do with Noah Syndergaard? Do they think he can be the guy? And like you said, you believe he's a good number two. And for being a number two, is he going to ask for two? He's kind of expensive for being a very good number two option. So one of the popular opinion for them is to move on from him. So that's why I brought him up. Wanted your opinion on that. Another big move that they declined John Segura's $17 million contract. So there's rumors that they could bring it back, with a more favorable team contract. But if they decided they don't want to bring him back and go to the cap, there are several good infielders available in free agency. Trey Turner is among one of them, and so is Xander Bogaerts. Wow, Xander Bogaerts. I really butchered his name there. I feel bad. Sorry, Xander Bogaerts. I don't like butchering people's names. But the Phillies, baseball is such a hard sport. I mean, everybody thinks it's not like football or basketball where if you go to the championship game the previous season and you bring most everybody back, you're expected to, be back or whatever. Baseball, a lot's going to have to go right. But like you said, you touched on it perfectly. They went on a nice end of the season run. A lot of people weren't expecting to be there. I wasn't expecting them to beat my Cardinals the way they did. And especially the performances we got from our two MVP candidates. That was a little embarrassing. Hopefully, yeah. So anyways, not time to move into the final segment of the day. And we're going to talk about some little MLB free agency news. So I'm going to actually go first on this one because I only have one prediction and it involves your Mr. Best Player in Baseball, Aaron Judge. My hot prediction, well, I wouldn't even say hot because it's a very popular one. I think Aaron Judge will go to the Giants. He's going to the Bay. He's going home to the Bay.
No, I actually, was that your only one?
That was my only one, yes.
Okay. I think that is probably third on his list. And I think the most likely landing spot is of course New York. And the second most likely landing spot.
I know where you're going because I see the look on your face. I know where you're going.
He might end up in Tampa Bay. He might.
Oh, that wasn't what never mind. No, that's not what I was expecting you to say at all.
Tampa Bay is highly interested in him. And I think he would like to stay in the AL East. And I think that's a bold prediction. But I think they have the second best chance just in the fact that the Red Sox are going to push hard for him too.
That's who I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, the Red Sox are going to push hard for him too. I don't think he'll want to be a Red Sox. I don't think he'd want to do that. But I could see, and if he does go to the Red Sox, we're getting Xander Bogaerts. That's guaranteed snagging him. And I will say the Yankees, here's my prediction for this. If Judge doesn't come back, Rizzo doesn't come back. And that's huge. That's a huge miss. And I think if those two don't come back, we're definitely going to land either Trey Turner or Xander Bogaerts. We'll get one of the two, which I would still like to get one of the two and Judge and Rizzo back.
Oh, that would be ideal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the ideal scenario for the Yankees. Because then I know that they talked about Dominguez, and then they really liked, I really liked Oswaldo, and then Oswald. Like both those guys really look good. None of them look like a top 20 baseball player. I know that's all the potential. I don't think neither of those guys that I mentioned have potential to be a top 20 baseball player. And I think the Yankees always need a top 20 baseball player. That they were the New York Yankees. You have to have somebody who is in the question for the Cy Young or the MVP every year. They have to have at least, if they aren't in the MVP conversation, it's like, they were hurt. Like, you know what I mean? Like they have to have that kind of guy every year. And that's the brand, just like the Dodgers and just like the Red Sox. Like that's the team you are, that you have to have. That is the brand. That is your brand. And they need to go out and get one. Don't just leave Garrett Cole. They have to go out and get somebody who's a top 20 baseball player. And then another thing, I think this is going to be a fantastic free agency. I think who's going to end up winning the free agency is I think it's going to end up either being the Blue Jays or the Nationals. I think those two teams, they have, then that Nationals is only if they're willing to spend the money. The Nationals have a chance if they're willing to spend the money. They have a lot of it to go, and they can get a lot of people. They have a lot of positions open, but I'm not sure if they'll be willing to spend the money, and that's why I say the Blue Jays will probably be the ones to win, because I think they're going to be one of the teams that walk away with a great shortstop, like a couple great infield. They're going to walk away with another great infielder.
I was like another great infielder, right?
They're going to add on another one who I think Vlad next year will be his turn to win his MVP if it's not Shohei. I think
he's been knocking on the door. He's been knocking on the door, man.
Yeah, this year he just I'm not sure if he was hurt, like, and he just played through or what, but
he didn't look like himself. Yeah, he didn't look like himself.
He didn't have that pop from, like, and I would watch this because I went through and watched actually a little bit after the season. I was like, what was going on with him? And it seemed like he didn't follow through with a lot of his swings. So I think it was probably either something with his hip or his back that was bothering him. Did he just play and he could play through it? It could have just been hip soreness or back soreness. And but yeah, I think he's going to be the guy next year that everybody's going to be looking at. They're going to look for another piece to add with him. They finally got their ace now. Like he's really developed. I forget his name. The Mora, Alex something. I forgot his name. The Blue Jays pitcher. Forgot his name. Yeah, they're that's going to be. They're going to be a team.
Alek Manoah.
Alek Manoah.
Alek Manoah. Yeah.
Manoah. That's his name. Yeah, he's going to be. They're going to be great. They're going to be a great team. AL East is going to be tough. The NL is going to be hard next year. It's going to be hard just all around. As long as teams stay healthy, it's going to be just hard fought all year long. There's not going to be. I would say there's going to be one team with over 100 wins. That'll probably be the Dodgers, and every other team will be probably around. A lot of teams will be around that low 90s range, just in the fact that they'll be beating each other up.
You know, I really hope that that your prediction comes true and the Blue Jays win the free agency, because they're quietly becoming one of my favorite teams to watch outside of my Cardinals. Bo Bichette is quietly becoming one of my favorite players in baseball, not playing for the Cardinals. So I hope that prediction comes true. Obviously, for my Cardinals, you know, we're dealing with two big retirements in our franchise. Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina are finally calling it a career, which is obviously, you know, down for morale. But, you know, it is a breath of fresh air going forward. To replace Yadier, one of the big rumors I'm hearing is that they're going after Wilson Contreras at the catcher's position. I've been hearing that, so don't know how much of that will happen. One rumor that I am hearing that from other Cardinals beat writers is an absolute 0% chance of happening is that a couple baseball analysts are predicting Jacob deGrom to go to St. Louis. I saw that.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday when I was looking up some stuff. I saw that popped up. Yeah.
I would love it. We'd all love it, but I mean, from what I'm hearing from the beat writers, it's a 0% chance of happening.
I'm not gonna lie. I would prefer to get him out of New York. I would really like to get him out of New York. Another thing, I would like him to, if he does stay in New York, you know, come down the street. That would be great. It'd be great for us. I feel like then we'd actually have our rotation, because I hate that we got rid of Monty, and I feel like that was really hurt us in the postseason. You know, Monty wasn't, you know, at the same level of Nestor or Luis or Garrett, but the thing was, he wasn't hurt. He was there. He had momentum, and you know, when you have a guy who has momentum and a guy who's been healthy, you know, that's what you got. Like, you got to keep him in. And we really missed out in the postseason, because now we got Luis Severino trying to figure it out on the big stage. And I feel like he just would have been a great guy that we could, you know, have in there instead of Talyun.
Yeah.
Had some horrible guys throwing. We didn't have pitching, and that's why I'm like this. That's what happens when you get rid of quality pitchers that can go 5 innings and give you a great 5, and you just get rid of them for a position player that ends up getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just stuff like that.
So, in a former podcast episode, I incorrectly predicted that Quinn Ewers would not go to Texas. The reason I'm bringing this up right now is because I just said Jacob deGrom will not go to St. Louis. So I'm hoping that the podcast jinx comes into fruition and somehow, some way, we land Jacob deGrom and we keep, Goldie and Arenado, which Arenado is opting into his contract, so he's going to be a Cardinal for the next 5 years. Supposedly. So obviously, podcast jinx, do your thing, bring deGrom to St. Louis. I would love to see it. If we can also get Wilson Contreras to come too, I mean, hell, let's just make an all-star team in St. Louis. Let's do it.
Yeah, no, that definitely is looking like if you spend the money, you get to the postseason.
Right.
That's where you look at the Padres and the Dodgers, Yankees, Mets. You got to spend the money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'm like, as bad as it is for other smaller teams like Kansas City, let's say teams like the Reds that don't have a lot of money to throw at people. It sucks to suck. Should have made more money back in the 90s and 80s. Should have been winning games.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So as we're approaching the end of the podcast, I want to thank DJ for coming on the episode today. Did a great job today. Always love hearing your baseball insight. To the listeners, as always, like and subscribe to the Less is More Sports YouTube and Spotify channel. Tell us in the comment section what you liked, what you didn't like, and also be sure to follow the social media pages on Facebook and Twitter. Give it back to me. If you hate my takes at all, I love to hear it too. So please definitely feel free to interact with us. We love hearing any kind of questions or concerns. But until next time, that's all the time we got for today. So we out.